The last Death World Earth sky was burning. Huge fireballs rolled over the mountains. The ground cracked open, and lava poured out like angry rivers. Black smoke covered the sun, but the girl on the cliff didn't move. She stood still, calm, like it was just another normal day. Her name was Zyra, and she was the only one left. Everyone else had died, burned, crushed, eaten, or poisoned. This world, called Xerox, was a death planet. The weak died fast. The strong died slow. But Zyra lived. She was not afraid of lava. She drank acid water. She ran faster than monsters and killed them with her bare hands. The planet tested her every day, and every day she survived. Zyra believed something deep inside. I am the last Death Worlder, the strongest, the final one. But that belief broke when she saw him. That morning, the sensors in her cave beeped. Zyra frowned. There was no one else on this planet. She walked to her screen. The map showed movement near the Red Valley, another beast. She whispered. She put on her bone armor, grabbed her plasma knife, and ran. The Red Valley was a dangerous place. Gas clouds floated near the ground. If you breathed once, you died. Zyra wore no mask. She had trained her body for years. Gas didn't affect her anymore. She climbed a high rock and looked down. Her eyes narrowed. Something or someone was walking through the gas, not crawling, not limping, walking like it was easy. The figure moved slowly, wearing black clothes and no helmet. No protection, no fear. Zyra's heart beat faster. What is that? She whispered. She jumped down, landing behind the stranger without a sound. Stop, she shouted. The man turned around. He was human. Zyra froze. She had never seen a human. In real life, it's only in old data logs weak, soft, scared creatures from Earth. But this man was not weak. His eyes were calm, serious. His face had a deep scar, and his skin was burned by the sun and acid wind. You shouldn't be here, Zyra said. The man smiled. I'm looking for someone, he said. Someone like me. Zyra narrowed her eyes. There is no one like you or me. Maybe not. But I had to see for myself, the man said. He looked around. Nice place. Reminds me of home. You call this hell your home? Zyra asked. The man chuckled. No. Earth is worse. Zyra blinked. Was he joking? She stepped forward. You will die here. The gas will eat your lungs. The lava will burn your bones. The man looked around and took a deep breath. Smells like rain. Zyra stared. Who are you? He walked up to her and extended a hand. Name's Jake. She didn't shake it. She pulled out her blade. I should kill you, she said. Jake didn't flinch. You could try. Zyra moved fast. Her blade sliced through the air, aimed straight for his chest. Jake dodged. Not fast enough. The blade cut his arm. Blood dripped. Still, he stood there. That was a warning, Zyra said. Jake looked at his bleeding arm. I've had worse. He reached into his pack and pulled out a cloth. He tied it around the cut. Calm, no fear. No anger? Zyra was confused. Why aren't you afraid? Jake looked up. 'Cause I've lived on a death world. To Earth, you think this place is bad. On Earth, even the plants try to kill you. Zyra said nothing. Jake walked past her and sat on a rock. I know what you are, he said. What am I? She asked. You're a death worlder, just like me. We survive where others die. We keep going when others quit. We don't give up. Ever Zyra clenched her fists. I was made here, born in fire. You were not. Jake looked at her. Maybe, maybe not. But I feel it in my bones. This planet doesn't scare me. You don't scare me. Silence. Then the ground shook. A deep rumble rolled through the valley. Zyra looked around. Earthquake. A big one. Jake stood up. Good. I needed a walk anyway. He started walking straight, toward a falling mountain path. Zyra stared at his back. No human should survive. Here. But Jake was not a normal human. And for the first time in her life, Zyra felt curious. Maybe she was not the last Deathworlder after all. The human with fire in his eyes, the sky screamed. Lightning tore across the clouds, blue and sharp like broken glass. Thunder came a second later, loud enough to crack stone. Below, the valley turned dark, filled with yellow gas and acid rain. Nothing should be moving in that storm. Nothing should survive, but something did. A shadow walked through the chaos, slow and steady. His black coat burned at the edges. His boots hissed in the acid puddles. But he kept walking like the storm was nothing. From the cliff above, Zyra watched him again. She had followed him since yesterday. The human, Jake. He wasn't normal. He had no armor, no shield, no fear. The gas didn't stop him. The acid didn't melt him. And he walked with a purpose, like he belonged here. He should be dead by now, Zyra whispered. But he wasn't. Zyra dropped from the cliff, landing softly behind him. Jake didn't look back. You again. You're being watched, Zyra said. By who? Me. Now he turned. His face was calm, but his eyes, they were strange, not scared, not angry. Just ready like fire trapped behind stone. Still think I'm going to die out here? Jake asked. Zyra didn't answer. She walked past him and pointed to a dark cave ahead. Shelter, she said. Unless you want your bones to melt. Jake followed her into the cave. Inside, it was dry and quiet. The storm roared outside like a beast that couldn't get in. Zyra sat on a rock and stared at him. You don't ask many questions. Jake shrugged. I already know the answers. Then tell me why you're here. Jake took off his coat. His shirt was torn, and his arm still bled from her last attack. I came looking for someone, he said. The one they called the other one. Zyra narrowed her eyes. Who called me that? Jake reached into his pack. He pulled out a small black cube and tapped it. A broken voice played from it. Subject 0, located on Xerox. Prepare. Retrieval. The other one is active. Zyra jumped to her feet. Where did you get this? Jake looked at her. Same place I got this scar. He pointed to the long line across his face. From the people who made us. Made us. Jake nodded. You think you were born here. You weren't. You were placed here. Zyra felt the ground shift beneath her. Not from an earthquake, but from something worse. Doubt. That's a lie, she said. Jake shook his head. I saw your name on a file, Zyra. Code ZRO1. A weapon, just like me. No, she whispered. I was born in the fire. Ty lived. In the storms. This world made me strong. Exactly, Jake said. They put you here so it would. The cave shook. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Jake stood quickly. Not an earthquake. Zyra smelled it too. Crawler. The ground rumbled. Again. Then a massive creature burst through the far wall. Four-legged worm with bone armor and glowing red eyes. Zyra grabbed her blade. Jake pulled out a firestick from his Beltan old Earth-made flare weapon. The crawler charged. Zyra jumped left. Jake rolled right. The creature spun, swinging its tail. It knocked Zyra into the wall. Jake screamed and charged. He didn't run like a soldier. He ran like a wild thing. He slammed the flare into the beast's eye. It exploded in fire and smoke. The crawler screamed, writhing in pain. Zyra leaped from the wall and stabbed the creature in the neck deep. Fast, hard. The crawler fell with a dying roar. Silence. Jake sat down, bleeding from his shoulder. Zyra looked at him with new eyes. You didn't run. Jake smiled. You didn't either. Zyra helped him up. Her hands were shaking not from fear, but from something else. Something she hadn't felt in years. Respect. They sat near the dead crawler, breathing hard. Zyra spoke first. How many like us are out there? Jake looked into the flames. I don't know, but I think we were made for something. Something big. Zyra nodded slowly. Then we need answers. Jake agreed. There's a place. An old lab in the mountains. I found it in the files. I was heading there before I met you. Then we go together, Zyra said. Jake looked at her. You trust me now? Zyra smirked. No, but I want to see what you do next. Jake laughed. Outside, the storm began to calm. The sky was still dark, but the first star broke through the clouds. Zyra stared at it. Maybe I'm not the last Deathworlder, she whispered. Maybe I was just the first. The forgotten lab. The door was buried under bones. Zyra pulled a broken skull from the pile and tossed it aside. Bones of aliens, animals, and something else. Thin bones, small, human. Jake brushed dust from a black metal plate. His hand shook. As he read the faded letters, Project D13 Level 0 entry, authorized access only. Zyra stepped closer. This is it, Jake nodded. The lab, hidden for over 20 years. They had traveled through ash storms and silent valleys to reach this mountain. The wind outside cried like lost souls. Nothing lived here, not even the skybirds. Jake placed his palm on the metal scanner beside the door. Nothing, he frowned. Dead. Zyra raised her plasma knife. Jake backed up. Wait. What? She stabbed the control panel. Sparks flew. The scanner beeped, blinked, and turned green. The heavy door slid open with a loud hiss. Jake stared. Remind me not to make you angry. Inside, it was cold. The walls were metal, black, and cracked. Wires hung like vines. Red lights flickered above. The hallway stretched into the dark like a tunnel to the past. Zyra stepped in first. Her eyes scanned the walls. Symbols she couldn't read. Broken glass. Old footprints in the dust, small, sharp, human. Jake walked beside her. His voice was low. They said this place was gone. But it's not. It's sleeping. The end. Of the hallway, they found a large steel door. Zyra pushed it open. What they saw stopped them both. Rows of glass tubes, tall and glowing. Some were broken, some still filled with blue liquid. Inside, a few floated shapes, bodies, not alive, not dead. Waiting, Zyra walked to the nearest one. Inside was a girl. Her skin was pale purple. Eyes were shut. Her arms were missing. Tubes were stuck into her neck. Jake read the tag on the base. D-Unit 03. Subject, Vera Hybrid. Status, incomplete. Zyra's face hardened. What? Is this place? Jake checked another tube. They made soldiers here. Deathworlders. Maybe even you. Zyra turned to him. Made. Like in a lab. Jake nodded. Not born, built. They found a control room behind a glass wall. Jake tapped on the dusty screens. One came to life. A woman's face appeared. An old recording. Project D13 log. Date, the 5th of August to 12. Subject. ZR01 shows extreme survival capability. Survived lava exposure. Survived atmospheric collapse. Recommend isolation on test planet Sirach. Zyra stepped back. That's me, the voice continued. Note, one human subject also shows unusual resistance. Subject JKO to escaped holding. Cell, status unknown. Possible evolution. Jake laughed without humor. That's me. The screen flickered, then died. Zyra whispered, "They lied to us." Jake clenched his fists. We were tools. Experiments. Silence hung heavy between them. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from deep inside the lab. Tap, tap, tap. Zyra raised her knife. Jake pulled out a small shock baton. The sound came again closer. From the far hallway, a figure appeared, tall, thin, moving like its bones were broken. It was once human, but now its face was stretched, its arms replaced with metal claws. Its eyes glowed red. It didn't speak, it screamed. Jake jumped to the side as the creature charged. Zyra rolled under its swing and slashed its leg. Sparks flew. The thing didn't bleed. It hissed and swung wildly. Jake stabbed it with his baton. Electricity shot through its body. It fell, shaking, twitching, and then stopped. Zyra breathed hard. What was that? Jake looked at the twitching body. A failed one. Not a soldier, a mistake. They heard more taps, dozens of them. Zyra looked at him. We have to leave. Jake pulled open a panel on the wall. Inside was a metal box. He opened it and found a chip, glowing blue. This has the list, he said. The names, the planets, all the Deathworlders. Zyra's eyes widened. There are more. Jake nodded. A lot more. They ran through the tunnels, past the dead tubes, past the broken creatures trying to rise. The door slammed behind them as they escaped into the cold wind of the mountains. The lab was sealed again. For now, Jake fell to his knees, breathing hard. Zyra stood tall, the chip in her hand. She looked. At the mountains, at the sky, at the broken truth in her heart. I wasn't born strong, she said. I was built. Forged like a weapon. Jake looked up at her. But you still chose to survive. She nodded slowly. So did you. Jake smiled. Then maybe it's time we find the others. Before the wrong people do. Zyra placed the chip into her blade's handle. Let's go wake up the Deathworlders. Hunters from the stars. The sky was not supposed to bleed, but it did. Zyra stood on the mountain edge, watching the blue sky turn red. A massive shadow moved across the clouds, silent but heavy. Birds vanished. The wind froze. A ship, blacker than night, broke through the clouds. No lights, no sound. Just fear. Jake stepped beside her, holding a scanner. His face turned cold. That's not a normal ship. That's a hunter-class vessel. Zyra narrowed her eyes. How did they find us? Jake held up the glowing chip they stole from the lab. This thing must have sent a signal. Zyra's jaw clenched. Then, they're here to clean up their mess. The ship hovered in place. No weapons fired, no messages. Just silence. Jake looked worried. They're scanning the ground. Searching for us. Zyra asked. For anyone with Deathworlder markers? Jake replied. Suddenly, a beam of red. Light burst from the ship, striking the valley below. Rocks exploded. Trees burned instantly. Zyra's eyes widened. They're not scanning anymore. They're erasing. They ran down the slope, dodging debris. The beam moved behind them, carving the world like a knife through butter. From above, small black dots dropped from the ship. Soldiers, not normal ones. These wore chrome armor and moved without sound, Jake whispered. Void hunters, Zyra frowned. Never heard of them. Jake looked at her, because no one survives them to tell the story. They reached an old ruined half-buried stone. Once a lookout post, they ducked inside just as the first hunter landed outside. It scanned the ground, glowing red lines moving across its faceplate. Zyra peeked from behind the wall. They don't look that strong. Jake gave her a look. They're not strong like us. They're smart, fast, and they don't stop. He opened a hidden floor panel, revealing a tunnel. Down here. Now they crawled into the dark. Dust fell from above. More hunters landed. The tunnel shook. Zero whispered, "Why are they really here?" Jake's voice was quiet. "Not just to kill us. To take the chip back. It has names, locations. If they get it, they'll kill every last Deathworlder." Zyra finished. The tunnel led to an old cave system. Cold, wet, full of echoes. Zyra and Jake moved fast. Their footsteps soft but quick. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind them. Then another. And another. Zyra stopped. There in the tunnels, Jake turned on his wrist light. "We split. You take the chip. I'll draw them away." Zyra grabbed his arm. "No." He looked at her. "We don't. Both get out." Zyra stepped closer, her voice sharp. "If you die, I fight alone. If I die, you fight alone. But together," Jake smiled. "We fight smarter." They set a trap. Zyra placed a fake heat core near a dead-end tunnel. Jake smeared his blood along the wall, making it look like he was injured and limping. Then they climbed above the ceiling cracks, waiting in silence. Two hunters followed the trail. Their metal feet tapped the floor, slow and careful. The first one stepped on the hidden explosive. Boom. Flames filled the tunnel. Zyra dropped down and landed on the second one, driving her blade through its neck joint. It twitched, screamed, and stopped. Jake climbed down. 2 down, probably 30 left. Zyra smirked. "Then we're just getting started." Outside, the ground shook. They reached the cave exit but stopped cold. 3 massive mechs stood in the valley, 10 meters tall. Each one had shoulder cannons, metal claws, and a cockpit full of red lights. Zyra's heart sank. They brought war machines. Jake pulled out his last explosive. "This won't stop all 3. Zyra pointed to the cliffs above the valley. "But if we bury them," Jake smiled. "You really are a Deathworlder." They climbed the cliff under cover of smoke. Each step was risky, but they made it. Above the valley, they found loose rock, old mining rigs, and unstable ground. Zyra jammed Jake's explosive deep into the crack. The machines below searched, but didn't look up. Jake clicked the trigger. Nothing. Zyra frowned. "What's wrong?" Jake. "Hit the switch again. Signals blocked." Zyra looked at the old control tower nearby, burned, but still standing. She grabbed the explosive and ran. "Zyra!" Jake shouted. She didn't stop. She reached the tower, climbed the shattered steps, and jammed the explosive into the antenna. "For the Deathworlders," she whispered. She hit the switch. Boom. The entire cliff shattered. Thousands of tons of rock fell on the Maxest. Dust covered the world. The sky turned gray. Later, Jake found her half buried under stone. He pulled her out, coughing, eyes full of dirt. She was alive, bleeding but smiling. Jake handed her the chip. "Still got it." Zyra stood slowly. Her body shook, but she didn't fall. She looked at the broken battlefield. "They came to erase us. We made them remember." Jake nodded. "And now we send a message." Zyra held the chip high. "You made us in secret, but we won't hide anymore." Above them, the hunter ship burned in the sky. One small victory, many more to come. The other Deathworlders was locked in a cage of ice. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes glowed faint red in the dark. Thin tubes ran from her back into the walls. She had no shoes, no voice, no name. But when she opened her eyes and saw Zyra standing outside her cage, she smiled. "You're late," the girl said. Zyra stared at her. "You know me?" Jake scanned the frozen room with his wristband. "We followed the chip. This is one of the sites Sit used to be a deep vault. The vault was hidden in the remains of a crashed starship, cold, metallic, and deep underground. The walls hummed with weak power. The girl sat cross-legged behind the energy barrier. "My name is Kale," she said. "Project Unit 09. Deathworlder, just like you." Zyra didn't speak for a long time. She had thought she was alone. Then she met Jake. Now this girl was calm, relaxed, like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. Jake moved to the control panel. "I can shut it down." Kale nodded. "Only if you want me out." Zyra stepped forward. "Why are you locked in?" Kale smirked. "Because I asked them to." Jake blinked. "You what?" Kale stood. "The ones who made us, they couldn't control me. I burned too hot. So I asked to be frozen. I wanted to sleep, till the others came." Zyra studied her. "How do you know about the others?" Kale tapped her head. "My mind isn't like yours. I see things. I hear things. There are more of us, not just 3. Jake pressed the panel. The energy field dropped. Kale stepped out slowly, barefoot. The ground cracked under her feet from the cold, but she didn't seem weak. She seemed like a storm. They built a fire in the control room. Old wires, panels, and broken tools made good fuel. Kale sat close, hands outstretched to the flames. "I know where the next one is," she said. Jake looked up. "Another Deathworlder." Kale nodded. "He was sent to a poison planet. Thick fog, acid rivers. They called him Gravik." Zyra raised an eyebrow. "What's special about him?" Kale's smile vanished. "He doesn't speak. He only breaks." Jake frowned. "Breaks what?" "Everything," Kale said softly. They left the vault that night. They left the vault that night. The stars above looked closer, somehow like the sky knew their number was growing. Kale moved silently through the forest. No fear, no sound. She touched a tree, and the frost on her skin made it shiver. Jake whispered to Zyra, "Are we sure she's on our side?" Zyra replied, "She's Deathworlder. That means she's on our path. But our side, we'll see." They found an old comms tower and activated a long-range scan. Kale stood still, eyes closed, as if feeling the air. "There," she pointed. On the map, a small red dot blinked on a planet called Torvus 9. Zyra stared. "We go now." Jake loaded the coordinates into their stolen skiff. Torvus 9 was not a world, it was a warning. The sky was thick yellow. The air tasted like acid. Metal corroded in minutes. Bones floated in green rivers. They landed near an abandoned outpost. All silent. Jake scanned the buildings. No signals. Zyra drew her blade. "Something's watching." Kale pointed toward a broken dome in the distance. "He's in there. I can feel the weight." Zyra frowned. "Wait," Kale said. "Only one word. Gravik." Inside the dome, they found a large room with smashed walls, shattered machines, and twisted steel beams. At the center stood a figure tall, huge. His back was toward them. Jake took a step. Gravik. The man turned slowly. He wore no armor. His skin was dark gray, like stone. His hands were wrapped in broken chains. His eyes were full of pain. He looked at them, then he raised his hand and pointed at Zyra. "Deathworlder," he growled. Zyra nodded. "Yes, prove it." He charged like a beast. The fight was brutal. Gravik slammed into her like a boulder. Zyra flipped and kicked, her blade slicing his side. He didn't slow down. Jake tried to interfere, but Kale held him back. "Let her fight," she said. "He only respects strength." Zyra dodged a massive punch, rolled, and stabbed his leg. Gravik roared and punched the ground, cracking it wide. Zyra jumped onto his back, slammed her elbow into his neck, and whispered in his ear, "I am not your enemy." Gravik stopped moving. Breathing hard, he dropped to one knee. "You fight." "Like us," he said, "so I will follow." Later, they sat inside the broken dome. Zyra, Jake, Kale, and Gravik. For Deathworlders, different pasts, different powers. But one mission. Jake looked at the chip. "There are more names on this," he said. "More survivors." But also, Kale nodded, "Hunters are waking too." Gravik crushed a rock in his hand. "Let them come." Zyra looked. "At her new team, we were created to fight. But we choose who we fight for." She looked up at the stars again. "Let's find the others before it's too late." The betrayal. She woke up in chains. The floor was metal. The air was cold. Her head ached. Zyra tried to move, but her arms were locked behind her back. She blinked slowly, fighting the fog in her mind. She remembered Kale's voice, Jake's laughter, Gravik's heavy footsteps, sand, then, ... the explosion. "Jake." She called out, no answer. The room was dark, except for a red light above the door. It blinked like a heartbeat, slow, steady warning. Zyra pulled against the cuffs. They were stronger than steel. Footsteps echoed. Someone was coming. The door slid open. Kale walked in. Alone, Zyra stared at her. "Where's Jake?" Kale didn't answer. She stood still for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she slowly stepped forward and placed a small black device on the wall. The light turned green. The door locked behind her. Zyra's voice sharpened. "Where's Gravik?" Kale sighed. "Still asleep." For now. Zyra's eyes narrowed. "What is this?" Kale didn't smile. She didn't blink. "This is the end of the path, Zyra. For you." Zyra pulled hard on her chains. "You betrayed us." Kale tilted her head. "I didn't betray you. I just returned home." Home. Kale pointed to the blinking device on her wrist. "I was never disconnected. They always knew where I was. I'm not like you or Jake. I was made loyal, designed to obey." Zyra's voice was low. "You're lying." Kale looked away. "I told myself I was free. I told myself I waited for you because I believed. But I was just waiting for orders." She turned her glowing eyes back to Zyra. "And the order is to destroy all Deathworlders who resist." Zyra's chains tightened. Pain shot through her arms. She gritted her teeth but didn't scream. Kale stepped closer. "You're strong, Zyra. Stronger than any of us. That's why they're scared of you." Zyra breathed hard. "Then they should be." Kale placed a cold hand on her cheek. "Doesn't have to end like this. They're offering me a place. You too. Serve them, and they'll let you live." Zyra spat at her feet. "I'd rather burn this galaxy down." Kale stepped back. Her expression didn't change. "I hoped you'd say yes." Later, Jake opened his eyes in a dark tunnel. His head throbbed. His side was bleeding. His scanner was cracked. But he was alive and alone. "Zyra," he whispered. He sat up, coughing. Dust filled his lungs. He remembered the ambush. They were in the jungle, camping. Then the blast, fire, pain, and then darkness. Jake limped toward the last signal on his scanner. It pointed east toward a base. "Hang on, Zyra," he whispered. "I'm coming." Meanwhile, Gravik woke with a growl. His arms were chained to a thick wall. Heavy rods held him in place. But Gravik wasn't calm. He roared and pulled hard. The Metal-cracked two guards rushed in with electric spears. Gravik grabbed one of them by the face and slammed him into the wall. The other jabbed him but Gravik didn't stop. He broke the spear in half and snapped his chains free. "Where is she?" He growled. No one answered, so he walked out, leaving broken guards behind. Back in the cold room, Zyra sat still. Blood dripped from her wrists. Kale had left, but Zyra wasn't waiting anymore. She closed her eyes and focused. "You were made strong," she told herself. "You survived everything. Fire, ice, betrayal. You are not done." She pulled once, twice until the chains cracked. Her skin tore. Her muscles screamed. But she kept going. And then, snapped out. She was free. Kale walked into the control room, typing on a glowing panel. A voice played through the speakers. "Subject ZR-01 will be terminated. Transport arriving in 6 hours." She nodded to herself. Then alarms blared. "Prisoner, escape. Cell. Breach." Kale froze. "No," she whispered. Zyra ran through the hallway barefoot, covered in blood and dust. She didn't hide. She didn't sneak. She moved like thunder. 2 guards tried to stop her. She grabbed one, flipped him over her shoulder, and used his body to knock down the other. Then she saw him, Jake, running toward her from the other end of the hall. He grinned. "You look terrible," she grinned back. "Took you long enough." They met at the middle of the hallway and ran together. Behind them, the building shook. Gravik stormed through the upper level, smosh everything in his path. Kale stood at the control tower. Watching through the glass, the red light above her turned white. A voice whispered in her ear, "You failed." Kale looked down at her hands. For the first time, they were shaking. Zyra, Jake, and Gravik reached the exit. The stars above were bright, free. But they knew this wasn't over. Jake looked at the stars. "They're going to send more." Gravik cracked his knuckles. Good. Zyra looked back once, then forward. "Let them come." The war of Deathworlder stars were on fire. Across the galaxy, fleets moved like black arrows. Cities fell silent. Satellites vanished. All screens showed the same message. Project Determination, begin. Deathworlders were being hunted. Again, but this time, they were ready. On a broken moon near the edge of the galaxy, a fire burned. In the night, Zyra stood on a metal platform. Her armor scarred and her face hard. Below her, hundreds gathered. Not normal soldiers. Not weak aliens, Deathworlders. Some had wings. Some had stone skin. Some burned like fire. Some whispered to machines. They were all different, but all survivors. Jake stepped beside her. He had healed, but the scar on his arm was still raw. He raised the chip high. "They called us accidents, mistakes, weapons. But they forgot something." He looked around. Weapons fight back. The crowd roared. Gravik slammed his fist into the ground, causing the ground to shake. No more hiding, no more cages. Stood nearby, silent. Her betrayal still hung heavy in the air, but she had returned. No one knew why. Not even her. Zyra faced the crowd. "We are not tools. We are the storm they cannot control. The war starts now." Above them, the first wave of enemy ships appeared dark, sharp, fast. The sky began to scream again. The battle started like a thunderclap. Ships fell from orbit. Hunters in black armor rained down like meteors. Giant machines stomped across the ground, firing red beams that melted stone. But the Deathworlders didn't run. They charged. Kale froze the legs of the mechs with a touch. Gravik tore apart hunter units with his bare hands. Jake led a group through the side trenches, disabling power cores with old Earth tech and Zyra. Zyra leaped from the cliffs like a hawk. She landed on a hunter's ship and ripped open the hull with her blade. She stepped inside, silent and deadly. Inside the enemy command ship, alarms blared. A tall alien in gold armor, Director Varnax, watched the screens. His face was pale and long, like something carved from bone. "They are organizing," his assistant said. "This wasn't expected," Varnax hissed. "They were never meant to unite. They were meant to die alone." He turned to his guards. "Deploy the final purge unit." A metal door opened. A massive machine stepped out 20 feet tall, covered in spikes and weapons. "Unit Omega Zero," the system announced. "Programmed to eliminate all Deathworlders." Back on the battlefield, the ground split open from the smoke. The Omega unit rose. Zyra and Jake looked up. It was walking straight toward the command tower where hundreds of young Deathworlders were hiding. Jake turned. "We need to stop it." Zyra nodded. Together, they ran toward it, fast and low. Gravik met them halfway. "I'll distract," Gravik growled, before they could stop him. He roared and charged straight at the mech. Omega Zero turned and fired a missile. Gravik took the hit. His body flew through the air, crashing into a crater. But he got back up. Jake shouted, "We go now." While Gravik fought, Jake and Zyra climbed the side of the mech. Zyra stabbed into its armor. Jake planted explosives at key points. The mech spun, firing wildly. Deathworlders dodged, regrouped, returned fire. Kale raised her hands and summoned a wall of ice to shield the young ones, then dash, boom. The explosives went off. The mech stumbled. Zyra leaped onto its head and drove her blade deep into its core. Jake overloaded the power unit. Omega Zero screamed and collapsed in a burning heap in the sky. Director Varnax watched in horror. They took down Omega. He turned to flee, but the ship shook. The doors exploded inward. Zyra stepped through the smoke. Jake and Kale flanked her. Varnax aimed a weapon at her. "You are not soldiers. You are mistakes." Zyra didn't answer. She just walked forward. Fire. Kale caught the blast with a wall of ice. Zyra ran up the wall and launched herself at him. "We were never mistakes," she said. "We were your end." One strike, it was over. The Deathworlders stood under the rising sun. The battlefield was silent now. The enemy fleet had retreated or been destroyed. The stars were free again. Gravik sat on a rock, bruised but alive. Jake leaned on his shoulder, smiling. Kale looked at the morning sky. No more orders, no more chains. Zyra stood in front of them all. "We were made in pain, forged in fire, left to die." She looked at every face, every scar. "But we survived. We rose. We fought back." She held up the broken chip, "And now we choose our own future." The Deathworlders raised their fists together. Not weapons, not monsters. A new kind of people.